Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 24th of October 2022. It's going to be one of those years of three, isn't it? 1888, you had the year of the three emperors in Germany. 1936 in the UK, the year of the three kings, George V, Edward VIII, and then George VI, who was the Queen's dad, of course. And now in 2022, it's the year of the three prime ministers here in the UK. And well, I say year of the three, it could be year of the 4 or 5, who knows, because we're only late October after all, still got a couple of months of this year to go. But yeah, Sunak is apparently our new PM now, and I can't say I'm very excited really. He's just another globalist puppet, WEF puppet, just like Truss, Johnson, and quite a few before them as well. So not holding out great expectations for him, I've got to say. I just think it's going to be more of the same old nonsense. So Sunak, yes, just another puppet, globalist puppet. Oh, and did you know, apparently, according to someone who can only be best described as an idiot, I'm sorry, but that's the best description I can offer of that person. But apparently, if you say globalist in a derisory manner, that is being anti-Semitic, apparently. I mean, go and work that one out if you can, because I can't. Where on earth the person, I don't know, I think it might have been a programme on LBC, the LBC radio station, or maybe it's just them reporting on it. So I don't know who came out with it, but I know someone did come out with that. So if you say, oh, these globalist puppets, these globalists who just want to take over the world, apparently that is anti-Semitic now. So that is kind of a good thing in a way, because they're getting so ridiculous trying to cast that kind of slur upon people calling out the globalists. That sort of thing just shows that people who are calling out the globalists are right over the target if they have to resort to cheap, stupid tactics like that. But anyway, that's an aside. But yeah, the new PM, not very excited and not looking forward or expecting great things. Now, Lee from the Veritas Vincit channel, a guy who I've mentioned many times, and I'll actually leave a link to his video that I'm about to talk about in the description box below and the comment section below, because it's on this platform here. But he came out with a very interesting video about 2 days ago, I think it must have been, where he was talking about his total and complete loss of faith in any and all of the institutions that we all used to look up to. He said trust in them and belief in them has just been utterly shattered, certainly over the last 2.5 years. But as far as he's concerned, it sounds like his journey started before that, as it did with me, albeit in a rather vague way, but it solidified over these last 2.5 to 3 years. And he was talking about how it doesn't matter who you're talking about, these institutions, international organisations, national bodies and offices of states, regardless of whether they're the monarchy or ministers, prime ministers, parliament, etc., etc. You know, the faith in them is just utterly been shattered. They've all kind of shown themselves up to be less than perfect characters, shall we say, over the last 2.5 years. There's not really many people or many institutions who have behaved with any kind of honour as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, and that is really why the likes of me and the likes of Lee have lost so much trust in the institutions, in prime ministers. The way Lee put it in his video was, a lot of people want to place their faith in them, you know, just sort of have this cosy little view that, oh yeah, the government's there looking after our best interests, as are all of the other institutions of the state. They're here to protect us, to look after us, to make sure we're okay. And of course, that's the illusion that the powers that shouldn't be want to paint, isn't it? But it's kind of really always been obvious that that's never really been the case. And there's always endless wars all the time. There always seems to be another war on the horizon, or some kind of strife. Perennial problems never seem to get solved. You know, there's always injustice, there's always homelessness, there's always poverty. And yeah, you just think, why have these things not been sorted yet? And you have to come to the conclusion that, well, maybe someone somewhere doesn't actually want those things to be sorted out. And I think another big shock to my system is just how corrupt everything is, how much they lie, how much they cheat. I've seen with my own eyes how the BBC and the other mainstream media sort of lies. These huge marches that I was privileged to be a part of 18 months ago in London, where there was, well, some estimates at the low end put it at 500,000 people, and at the high end 2 million people, probably somewhere in between, let's call it 1 million. But anyway, they were some of the largest sort of gatherings, shall we call them, that London has ever seen in its entire history. And yet the BBC didn't report on it whatsoever. And you just have to sort of think, well, that's lying. People might say, well, it's not really lying, is it, Tim? Because not reporting on something isn't really lying. Well, it kind of is, especially when your job is to report on any significant events, which those things definitely were. So if you don't report on them, that is lying by omission. So I have seen with my own eyes that how corrupt the BBC is, and how much they lie. And so there's no faith, as far as I'm concerned, in them to tell the truth and tell you really how it is. And of course, that's been borne out with everything else, how they're not reporting on other things that they should be reporting on. You know what I'm talking about. And the same goes with pretty much every MP. The same goes with every minister, certainly the Prime Minister. And it's just the whole faith and trust has gone. And it's going to take a long time for it to come back. If it ever does come back, it probably won't. But one interesting thought I had, it kind of came back to me when I was watching Lee's video, but I actually first had this thought getting on for a couple of years ago now, or even over 2 years ago. And let's say the likes of you and me suddenly had our best case scenario. which of course would be that all of these clowns who currently run pretty much everything, I don't care if you're talking about the British Prime Minister or ministers or MPs or sort of provincial or state premiers or governors, leaders of senior or big companies, medium-sized companies, and really anyone else, anyone in mainstream media really as well, or anyone else. We all know how corrupt they are, but let's just say all of these people were kind of rooted out of their positions of power and influence tomorrow and were replaced by good, decent, honest, upstanding, hard-working people, which, well, of course, is what they should be anyway. The fact that it's not is a disgrace. But let's say that was the case. Every person in any kind of position of power and authority were sort of decent people, and that went worldwide. Well, it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? It'd be like winning the lottery. That'd be all our kind of dreams come true, all our Christmases come at once sort of thing. But how long would it last? This is the question I was asking myself. How long would that last? How long would it be before the evil ones started worming their way back into perhaps positions of more minor influence to start with, but then made their way up the greasy pole and got back into positions of seniority? Would it take 10 years? Because after all, these people seem to be very good at this, don't they? They seem to be very good at, sussing out what they should be doing, the positions they should be getting. And once they're in power, they then kind of give all of their evil mates a leg up as well and into other positions of power. And I don't know, would it be 10 years, 20 years, maybe a couple of generations, sort of 50 years? But I've got a horrible feeling that before too long, we would just be back to where we are now. And most of, or certainly a big proportion of the people in power and influence would be wrong uns. So I know I'm normally sort of here to give you uplifting talks and, try and raise the vibration a little bit, but that is one concern I've got. You might sort of say, well, it's not really a concern if we can just get rid of the people we've got in at the moment and replace them with decent people. Maybe a new system could be constructed that would prevent wrong uns getting in. Maybe a good start would be to properly vet anyone and everyone applying for any position of power, wherever it might be. Give them psychological tests to make sure they're not sociopathic or psychopathic, etc., and look deeply into their backgrounds to make sure there's no kind of conflicts of interest, etc. Like, you don't have to look too far with Sunak to see that it's either him or his wife's company has got contracts with other companies run by the or linked to the Whiskey Echo Foxtrot. So you've got all of these bizarre conflicts of interests, which, as far as I'm concerned, is just corrupt. So maybe just a proper bit of vetting would stop the problem coming back. But yeah, an interesting point. How do you think, even if we started afresh, that it wouldn't be too long before the wrong uns wheedled their back into power? Or do you think there could be something done to prevent that ever happening again? So yeah, just using today's news to let my thoughts run a bit wild here, as I have a habit of doing sometimes. And yeah, be interested in seeing your comments in the comment section below on that one. So I'll leave that, let you go and do that. And also I'll let you go and watch Lee's video that I talked about. The link to that will be in the description box in the comment section below as well. So I'll leave it. Tim from Fair Play Now, thanks for watching.